And shooting one frame of film can, depending upon the complexity of the shot, take, anywhere from 10 minutes to, an hour and a half, adjusting everything properly for one frame of film.
You get your camera, you take one frame, stop the camera, you go onto the little stage, move the arm infinitesimal inch, go back behind the camera, shoot another frame, one frame at a time.
Most of the work for Ed 209 was stop motion animation, with the exception of the staircase scene, and in particular when he falls down the staircase. The staircase that Ed 209 fell down was a 4-foot square miniature, built of plywood and brass and, the usual kind of model building materials, reinforced so that when the guy fell down the stairs, it didn't shake the set too much. Phil did all of the kind of masterminding of exactly how we're going to do that, what angle the set would be at to get the best roll and everything. And then we rigged up the puppet with a pin in his foot, and when we said go, camera was rolling at speed, we'd pull the pin and the robot would tumble down the stairs and off the edge of the set. I was the one catching the robot because I was the one who had to fix it up for the next take, so I wanted to make sure as little stuff broke, So I'd be down there trying to make sure the little thing didn't hit the ground and break off an important part, and then I'd have more work to do.
I came up with this technique that Craig Hayes helped me with, where I thought, I don't want everything to go through like a secondary optical pass. I want everything to be on the original negative, if that was possible.
For Ed 209's machine guns, we rigged up photographic flashes.
And then while I was animating the Ed 209, you animate one frame at a time, one frame at a time, one frame at a time, getting ready to cock his guns or whatever.
I took some Minolta flashes apart and rigged up a system where we could put the actual flash tube into the tip of the barrel of Ed 209's gun.
And backwind the camera one frame and turn all the lights off on the set.
And then we would take cotton, take some, colored plastic gel, wrap some orange around the thing, and then take some cotton and sculpt what would look like a muzzle flash.
They'd go off.
So that you get this thing that looks like a burned-in kind of a muzzle flash.
I put like tons of diffusion on the camera, too, for those particular frames. Not the rest of the stuff, but just for the frames where the flashes were going off. So it didn't look like cotton. It looked like more of a diffused flash. And then I just randomly put different shapes in the cotton, so it had the characteristic effect of gunfire.
It was a pretty interesting technique, but because of the high voltages, involved in the sort of somewhat, movie-ish quality of the wiring, occasionally they'd get a few thousand-volt shock.
And I'd be working away on the thing, and he never insulated these things well enough. I'd be right in the middle of doing this thing, and you hear the scream, ah! And I'm just gonna get these, 10,000 volts going through me. It was really wild.
I'd been through enough shocks myself that I kind of found it amusing, but I don't think they appreciated that at all.
Everything's very clear when you get electrocuted.
And this is a shot where we actually made a little miniature Robocop. So this was a stop-motion Robocop that grabs the gun, and Ed 209 is firing as he gets his arm pointed over to his own arm and actually blows his arm off. This was kind of an interesting shot to achieve because of the way the robot, it's one of the things, the limitations of the robot. He actually technically couldn't shoot his own arm because his head was in the way. So we ended up sort of cheating, and you don't see it in the movie, but we unhooked the arm and just kind of pulled it out to the point where he could do it. It's all a big phony thing. For this shot of him launching his missiles, he had his giant blown-off arm, which is a practical part that built out in San Francisco. I had to fly it out to Dallas, and I remember as Phil and I were going out there, I had this big, giant blown-off robot arm wrapped in some paper and stuff, and they asked me what it was at the airport. I didn't want to say it was a big, giant blown-off robot arm, so I said it was a planter, and they said, okay, let's put it in there. It's hard to imagine these days, getting a giant blown-off arm, through any kind of airport security. But back then, it was whatever.
Hey, special effects.
I thought for sure that I'd be able to continue doing matte paintings with a paintbrush and camera trickery for the rest of my life.
Since RoboCop, the industry, visual effects in particular, have changed so radically.
In the digital world, you're in an arena where you have your frame and you can do anything you want with it. You don't have to go have a separate camera shoot something else. You can create it in the digital world right there, and you can put it into the frame right there.
With the advent of computer graphics and Photoshop matte paintings, the cut and paste methods, and just using photo collage, matte painters could, for the most part, start coming out of the woodwork. People that couldn't create a realistic painting with their hands and with a paintbrush were suddenly, there's just tons of matte painting artists now.
There's a completely different kind of realm of equipment that's necessary, and the accessibility, of course.
These days, visual effects are done in a variety of ways. You can create something completely from scratch in the computer build 3D models and light them and so forth, and do that all entirely in the machine.
You can go to a store and you could buy the software, the hardware, most of the stuff that you would need to actually do visual effects.
I don't
That's
know
the paint
if there was
first.
if there really is a need for doing stop motion anymore
Stop motion animation is still around, but certainly in a far diminished capacity.
in regards to doing visual effects work. I think it's it's been replaced by computer graphics pretty much.
I found that by the late 1990s, by 1997, that early in that year, that for the most part, any phone call that I got requesting a matte painting shot, they wanted to know for sure that I was doing it with computer graphics.
It's a completely different world.
That's the way of Hollywood and the film industry.
I still
The
use
technology
paintings.
only reflects, what's current, and it's constantly
If I was
being
gonna do-
replaced.
You can watch the film nowadays, and the shots do hold up.
One of the biggest compliments for me on the whole project was when my friends who really didn't understand what we did would come over, walk up to this thing and kick it, and it was hollow. They'd be shocked. They thought it was a 4-ton giant robot that we had built.
They're actually artists who happen to be working with very sophisticated special effects.